So you're taking pictures for Instagram, whether it's your car, whether it's flowers, whether it's people, whatever it is. Your pictures are probably looking a little bit more like this and a lot less like this. And in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to fix that and how to optimize pictures using your cell phone. I'm using a flagship phone today. It's a Galaxy S24 Ultra, but it doesn't matter if you have iPhone, Android, or some random phone no one's ever heard of before. As long as you follow the tips I'm showing you in today's video, it is going to level up your photos tenfold. It's going to look so much better, and it is going to apply to almost any phone. So I'm taking pictures of my car today for my Instagram page. The most important thing is location. You got to find a good spot to take your picture, and that's what we're doing right now. So we're going to hop in the car, we're going to drive around, and I promise you, I've been living in the same area for a really long time, and I still find new locations every time I do this. Another little tip before you go out is wash your car, or whatever your subject is. If you're taking a picture of your dog, maybe give your dog a bath the night before, etc. Something like that, just to make the subject you're taking pictures of look as good as it possibly can. You know, if you're taking pictures of people for a wedding, obviously you're going to make sure they're dressed up, have their makeup done, etc. You want to do the same thing for your vehicle. But I will say, some of my best pictures have been just random spots I found on the way home from a trip or something like that, where I'm not intentionally going out to take pictures. And the car ends up being very dirty. And I will show you guys a couple of editing tricks you can use to make your car look a lot less dirty in your pictures. Okay, so I think I found a place, and I'm pretty sure this is private property, but it is a big parking lot, so it's obviously like a church or some kind of community building. So I think I'll be okay here for a little bit. Check out the situation, see how it looks, if you like the angle, if you like where the car is sitting, etc. I always do a little wheel tilt, that way you can see the wheel. I'm going to start recording my phone screen. Something first we have to do, if we're posting on Instagram, let's go ahead and change this format. Over here on the left, you see the format. We can do a 1x1, 16x9, 4x3. We're going to want to do a 4x3 because this is optimized. This is the size they use on Instagram. Now, that sometimes is going to change the way the picture looks in itself. So when you're taking pictures, you would rather take them on 4x3 instead of cropping them after the fact. That way you get everything in the shot that you want to get. We're in the one-time zoom. Now, a lot of people don't realize you can utilize your zoom, and it's a big deal. So I just zoomed in 2-3 times, and look at the difference that made. That made it look a lot better. But that didn't change my lens. On my camera, the 3x zoom is just a cropped version of the 1x zoom. But if we go to 5x zoom, did you see that transition? It actually switches lenses. This is a different lens. Now, each phone is going to have a different lens zoom, where it's going to change different. So my last phone changed lenses at 3x zoom, and that's going to make a big difference. Then you can also lock on the screen and pick a spot for it to focus on, and that'll change the lighting, it'll change the focus. So you can use autofocus, but this is sometimes more helpful for different subjects. So you could, say, get a nice lock there on the headlight, which is kind of like our focal point, and take a picture. Now, I know these don't look too crazy, but you can get creative with your angles here. You know, you can get down, get an angle like this. We can get a click there, click here. Then you can adjust the lighting. If you're not happy with how the lighting looks, you can make it, you know, more bright or less bright, but we'll do all that in post. I'll show you what would happen if we took this picture in 1x here. So we're still in 5x zoom. So I'm relatively far away from the car. If we go into 1x zoom, that picture doesn't look nearly as good now, does it? That's like a completely different angle. If I want to get that lip of the wheel, it just doesn't look good. And I'm almost touching the car with my phone right now. And then obviously there's our 6x zoom, which could be cool for like certain things. Like maybe you want to get like a shot like that, you know, or something where it makes the front end look a little bit more aggressive. You might want to use that 6x zoom because it'll kind of give a slight fisheye effect. But let's try the 3x zoom out. This one is a cropped lens, but you can see there, it's going to give us a nicer cropped look there. But when you switch that 5x zoom and it switches lenses, it looks so much more clear. Another thing to do is clean your lenses. My lenses were actually pretty dirty in those shots, so I'm interested. Now, you can do some tricks to clean up the way the picture looks. If you have a dirty lens, a lot of times it'll haze up the picture a little bit, and you can dehaze it in editing. I'll show you that in a little bit, but make sure your lenses are clean. All right, so you can see here how the shade has given us a nice little spot for pictures. And if we do our zoom, I'm still walking backwards. There's our 3x. Ah, no, the sun. So always try and avoid reflections like that. But we can go backwards a little bit more. We can go down and look at that shot. That completely eliminated that sunspot for the most part. And we're a little shaky here. I think this might be because of me screen recording. It's kind of messing up my image stabilization or something, but there we go. So I found another fun spot down here. Just be careful, something else to consider when you're in a spot where there's grass. Be careful because you could ignite the grass with your car exhaust. So if you're taking car pictures, be mindful of that. You can see here, this might be a good shot. Sometimes you think you found a really cool location and it ends up just not being as cool as you thought, but you can always edit up a picture to look nice. All right guys, so here you can see all of the pictures we took today. I am in the Lightroom mobile app. Now, there's all kinds of photo editing apps you can use. Lightroom is my favorite and it is free on the App Store. There are some paid features that I pay for that you probably won't have access to on a base version of the app, but there's still a lot you can do without paying anything. So let's find a picture that we took with the 4x3 Instagram format here and we can edit this. So this is zoomed up. I believe this was a 5x zoom picture and it looks great. This is a great starting point for us to edit. The first thing I'm noticing here is it's not perfectly straight. So we can go into crop right here and we can slightly change the angle. Maybe right there. Right there is pretty straight. I think that looks good. It looks like we might be slightly out of focus on this picture, but it's not too bad that we can't use it. The first major things you can do to upgrade your picture, and the first things I typically do is I go into detail. Now I will go into noise and let's zoom up at a spot on this picture. You can see how it looks a little noisy. It doesn't really look like a nice professional picture. Right here you can see the noise. If we crank this sucker, you don't have to be scared of this either. Let's crank this all the way up to like, let's say 66. Look at how that smoothed out all that noise. So let's get rid of it. See all the noise? Let's crank it back up. Noise is gone. We'll do the same thing with the color noise. We'll crank that up. Another big thing is effects. Let's back out. Let's look at this picture. It looks a little hazy because first off, my lens was dirty, and second off, the lighting was a little interesting and it kind of made it look hazy. So we can grab onto this dehaze slider and we can start to dehaze the picture. And if you look at it, you see how that makes it look hazy or less hazy. We'll bring that down a little bit. And then clarity sort of does a similar thing. You can see it makes it less clear, more clear, but I caution against using this too much because you see how it almost looks like a lower quality photo when you bring that down too far. So let's bring this back a little bit. I wish I did have a professional camera here with a polarizer lens. That would have got rid of a lot of these reflections here from the leaves, but we're just gonna roll with it. A big mistake a lot of new photo editors do is they go into Vignette and they go like this. They go, boom. That is not what you want to do, guys. We're gonna start with that, right? But we're nowhere near done. We want to feather that out a lot, 100% always. Then we'll go midpoint and we'll change the midpoint of our picture. You can see as I adjust this, it adjusts how far in that vignette goes. And we want that around where it starts, maybe a little bit more. We can change the roundness of it. So you guys see as we're doing that, it changes. You kind of want to do that for each picture. Select that on your own terms, how you like that. So I'm going to now bring that amount back. Maybe bring the midpoint in just a little bit more. And I think that right there looks good as far as vignette. And look how much our picture made progress already. Now, something I really like to do is go into colors. And you can really mess with all your colors here. You can change your tint and make it look more like summertime, more like wintertime, etc. But what I like to do, a lot of people go in here and they just crank up saturation or they crank up vibrance, and that makes it look really crappy. I like to go in here, sometimes I'll even reduce the vibrance a little bit, and then I will increase saturation slightly. But then I go into this individual color wheel and I start messing with in here. So first thing I do typically with my black car is I go to the blues and I desaturate the blues. See how that changes the look there of the front of the car as I desaturate those blues? It makes it look more natural, makes it look like a more black car. If you have that saturation up, sure, that's how it's kind of actually looks outside, but we're trying to make the picture look good. So I'm removing those blues and I think that makes that look so much better. Look at the before and the after. We can go into the greens and let's move this picture back here some so we can see the greenage behind the car. We can increase saturation or we can change the luminescence or the hue to make it look more like fall colors or weird greens. So we'll come back, we'll make that look a little different. We can change the luminescence, which I like to do because that kind of brings attention to it. So I bring that down just a little bit, bring the saturation down ever so slightly. Go into the yellows because a lot of times they're incorporated in the greens, and you can, yeah, look at that. That is all yellow, not green. So we can actually take and move that to green, make it look more alive. We can bring the saturation down a little bit, bring the luminous down a little bit, and then that changes the whole look of the background of the picture. So you can see before, after. Brings more attention to the car, does it not? Another big thing we can do to bring attention to the car is we can go to blur. This is a new feature added not too long ago. It uses an AI to determine the focal depth. So we'll crank this up a little bit and watch what it does. Look how it did that, and it did a really good job. Now, if you don't like where it is cropping your focus, you can actually click on this one up here and change the focus. So let's zoom out a little bit. If we move this over, watch how it'll change the focal length from the front of the car to behind the car and blur out the front of the car. See what it just did there? It changed our focal pitch. So we'll come back to the front of the car, and then we can bring this to the right to change how much the background's blurred, or we can bring this to the left and slowly bring in that background blur. And we could almost bring it in all the way up till it's in the car. So keep an eye on that. You want to keep that behind the car and behind the subject. Now that blur's a little strong. We can make it more strong. We can make it less strong, make it a little more subtle. But I don't mind a strong blur. I think it looks really good when we do a strong blur. It makes it look like a normal camera. Now there's a bunch of things we can do to make this photo look a little bit better. One thing you can do is you can tint your windows by going to masking, select, brush, and we could actually manually tint my windows because I don't have window tint. We can go in here and manually basically draw on my window, and we could try to remove some of these reflections from the leaves and try to tint the windows a little bit. Let's see if this works. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're not going to do anything too drastic that's going to be noticeable. We can bring the exposure down a little bit, see how that makes it look tinted. Then we can take our whites and bring our whites down. That'll eliminate some of those reflections. We can increase or decrease the blacks. We don't want to make it look fake. Highlights, we can bring that down a little bit. That kind of hides some of those whites. Contrast. Now let me know what you guys think. Does that look good or not with the window kind of messed with? We can bring the exposure back up just a little bit to try and maybe not make it look as drastic, but I think that looks good. We can also do a couple of things here, like maybe we want to highlight the sea light. You know, WRX owners love their sea lights. We can go masking, we can go brush, and I'll sit my phone down here and just kind of hand select this with my finger. We can just quickly select this, and this beginning part doesn't matter as much because now we'll go in with the eraser and we'll clean up the edges. We can individually now select and change this sea light. So we can go light. Let's go exposure and increase that white light a little bit. See how that's doing that? We'll also increase contrast, which will hide some of those blacks. We will do a highlight, which will hide some of the shadows. We'll pull the shadows up. We'll pull the whites up. And we'll push the black down just a little bit. Now, look how it looks like that sea light is illuminated. Isn't that cool? Before, after. We could even zoom in and change our fog bezel here. So we have the same settings selected. We can go brush, change our flow, change our size a little bit, and we can go in here and we can edit this. And now look how that is increasing the brightness and making that light look like it's turned on when it's not. And then we can go in here with our eraser and clean it up just a little bit. Done. Again, before, after. It just cleans it up, makes it look like it's actually on. We can do other things, like we can zoom up on our wheels, hit masking, hit brush, and we can go in here with a brush, and we can select, say, the lip of our wheel. We can go exposure and crank that up. We can go shadows, crank that up. Highlights, crank that up. Maybe a little more contrast. And look at the lip of the wheel now. It just makes it pop. And then we can also add to this. We'll hit add to mask, brush, and we can zoom in back here and add that same effect onto this rear wheel. And you can see that as we're adding it, you see on this grill how you can see the sun kind of peeking in at some spots. Let's try something out here. We'll go down to the removal tool. Now there's a couple things you can do. There is remove, heal, and clone. The remove seems to be the most functional tool for me. There's a couple options. You can do it without generative AI or with generative AI. With the AI, it takes longer and sometimes doesn't do what you want it to, so you have to play around and see what the generative AI does. But watch this. We have size. See if this is, yeah. We want to remove that sunspot there. Let's see if AI can do this for us. Look at that. That made such a difference. Just that little spot on the grill. See that white spot on the grill? Now it's gone. That is such a huge difference in pictures like this. I know this takes a long time to go through and really fix all this stuff. Let's turn the AI off, and we'll do a spot right there. Let's try and get this spot gone. And this is without AI, so this will load a lot quicker. See how it's just getting rid of those white spots? It knows exactly what we want to do. And it rebuilds the grill strips pretty much spot on. We can do these spots down here. We can select that, and hopefully it'll remove those. We can do that, that, that. Just keep going along and removing these spots. Okay, so we cleaned our grill up a little bit. Now we'll go back in. Now remember how I said about washing your car. This is one of the important reasons to wash your car, because we have bug guts all over this thing, but we're going to remove them. So we're just selecting these spots, and it's going to remove them. And as you can see, it's going to make your picture blurry while it's doing this, but it does a pretty good job. Even with these lines in the bumper, it removes the dirt that I'm selecting and keeps everything else intact. I think this reflection right here with the trees looks a little weird because it doesn't look like it's supposed to be like that. Something looks off here. Now this obviously isn't actually an issue, but it looks weird in the picture. So we're going to remove that, and I think AI will probably do that best. Okay, that did a really good job. Now we'll remove these and maybe remove this little white patch right over here. Alright, so there's our before, and it just looks kind of weird there, and our after, that looks a little bit better. Now we have a little spot there still, and a little spot up here still. We can probably turn we'll turn generative off now. We don't really need that for this stuff. We'll hit that, maybe clean this up a little bit. Sometimes I like to eliminate this stuff here that we can see in the grill. So we can remove that, we can remove that, we can remove that. Don't spend all day with this tool. I mean, this is one picture, and this does not copy and paste over to other pictures. So, you don't want to waste too much of your time messing with that. Here's our before. Here's our after. The only thing left that I don't like on the car is these sunspots right here. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to get rid of those. And that's something that choosing the lighting when you're taking the picture is the best scenario. Just make it look as best as you can. Let's try AI and see if we can get it to remove these for us. I don't think it'll work, but if it does work, I will be very happy and very surprised. Whoa. Okay, that is, wow. I did not think it would fix that. That was a huge problem that it just fixed. That looks so much better. Now we have the car really dialed in, and there's something else we can do. We can go down to effects, and actually select. We can do a brush, a radial gradient, so we could do like if we wanted to, like a sunspot. We could put this up here, we'll spin it a little bit. We could widen this, bring it across the car like that. And what we could do is we could go into color, we could make this warm, we could go to light, we could increase the exposure and stuff. We can do all kinds of stuff, highlights, contrast, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And try and make it look like a sunspot. Now there we went a little too much, but there you can see, like, now it looks like the sun's kind of hitting the side of the car. But I don't like how that looks. I'm going to erase that. We'll throw that in the trash. But we could do a linear gradient. And so you could take a gradient here, and we could do something like this, right? Maybe we want the ground to kind of be darker a little bit. So we can go light, we can go exposure, and we can darken that ground. We could go effects, clarity, texture, and make the ground look more textured. And then We'll click on this, we'll go subtract brush, and we can go in here and subtract where it may have interfered with our car. I want to draw this back a little bit. I think that's a little too dark. Maybe like that. Guys, I think we're done with this picture. I usually do this really quick, but trying to explain everything, do a couple extra features and stuff for you guys, but I think that looks fantastic. So we can just go up here, auto save your edits in Lightroom, and then we'll save to device. It'll export that photo to your device in a photo or an album titled Lightroom, and that'll be it. All right, guys, I know this video was long and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to cover everything and show you everything that I do, and I didn't want to skip over anything. So that's basically what I do. So here are some other pictures we took today, some before and afters. You can see a little bit of my editing. I try and do different styles. I try not to do the same thing with every picture, but I do have a default style where I kind of always have a similar vibe to each picture, but I try and do different things. Here you can see some of them. Hopefully you like the way they all turned out, and hopefully you enjoyed today's video and it was helpful for you. I tried not to make it long, but it just ended up being long because there's just a lot to showcase and it's just a lot. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments, or if you just want to talk about what editing software you use and how you edit your pictures, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll be in there. I'll try and answer some questions and stuff. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I appreciate you sticking through it. Check out my other videos and my channel if you are interested. I'll see you in the next one.